In this video, you will learn to describe various network security models.
Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of network security models so we understand mechanically, in terms of processes and in terms of logical decomposition, what we're looking to achieve. So let's talk for a moment about a generalized model for network security. And here on slide 17, we see an extract from the Stallings text about communication between a sender and a receiver. So this is Alice and Bob in our example. And they have a communication channel between them that is non-secure. And they need to wish to send a message that is protected, can be intercepted, has integrity components to this, has confidentiality components to that, and there's an availability part of the network. So what can Bob and Alice do? Well, obviously, we have the initial clear text message, and that's this element that we see right here from Alice sending to Bob. So sender is Alice, recipient is Bob. So the security-related transformation process is encryption, 99 times out of 100. So there's some secret content right here that is maintained, and the secret content is actually the encryption keys. So the encryption keys follow, allow the security-related transformation or the encryption of the message. And here is the encrypted or secure message right now. Alice puts this onto the information channel. Our adversary here can intercept the message, but because the adversary, Trudy, doesn't have access to the keys that are found here, will not be able to read this. Now, then Bob pulls the message off of the communication channel. So this message here is the same thing as this message here. Applies his key here. Now the keys can be the same or different. We'll explain that in a little bit later. But he's using the same encryption-decryption protocol that Alice is using, and then we have the clear text. So the message here is the same as the message there. Now that we have the generalized model plus the foundational concept described in Module 1 understood, let's start moving into security architectures and what it means to have an attack against a security architecture. So, quick review of what security means is that within X.800, right, which is that International Telecommunication Union document, part of the UN governance element on that, what is meant by security? That's actually used just simply in terms of managing the vulnerabilities and their exposure of risk to both assets and resources, right? So an asset right here, right, can mean anything. So in our context, that means the valuable information maintained by an enterprise. It also means the security enforcement point, right? That technical implementation of a security policy that, if it's disabled, increases the risk factor for the enterprise. So both of those are in play in terms of a security asset. So a vulnerability, Stallings and 800, says any weakness that can be exploited to violate a system or the information that it contains. In the actual lexicon of a security professional, a vulnerability is an undeployed exploit. We think about a vulnerability from a software manufacturer, from a security company, right, is a backdoor. It's a window. It's a way that security policies can be circumvented and information can be stolen. Now, a vulnerability that's put into play is called an exploit. So a threat right, is the potential violation of security. So we have a definition for security, and then the threats right here, right, are what we are protecting against. So look at security, architecture, and motivation. So 800 rather, right here, right, talks about the motivation for security in open systems. So let's define open systems for a moment. The absolute opposite of an open system is a proprietary or a closed system. Open systems need not be defined by standards. Most standards organizations move at a pace that only a geologist can appreciate. But those protocols, those interfaces are published to the open. This is IBM's approach to security and software systems. We are an open systems, not necessarily a standard. So CCIT, right, which is a group that comes out of that ITU, right, has a piece of rocket science here that says, we need to enhance security of open systems because of society's increasing dependence on computers that are accessed or linked by data communications, which require protection against various threats. So that's ground truth, right? The world's becoming more connected, needs more protection. So there's several countries that have increasing legislation, right, about data protection. The European Union comes to mind, safe harbor in terms of managing some of the risks that are associated with that. So the deliverer, let's use that rather than the term suppliers, the deliverer of a secure enterprise needs to take into consideration the risks and the legal ramifications of its systems. So, and this is some marketing from ITU right here, right? There's a number of standards, but open systems generally very, very popular and should be. So if we have security, architecture, and protective elements of that, one of the questions that we need to take a look at is what needs to be protected. So this is not rocket scientists. We've talked about this before. Obviously, the information and data, right, needs to be protected. This is the crown jewels of the enterprise: the customer credit card information, health records, bank information, all of the elements around that, including security measures such as the passwords, right? We think about the Yahoo breach where passwords were stolen. All of that is target, fair games for the adversaries. We also have the context of communication and data processes and services right here. These are the security enforcement points that we talked about earlier. Remember, security enforcement points are technical implementations of security policies that are derived from business policies. And we obviously need to protect against modification, destruction of our equipment and facilities.